Welcome back to the Para Podcast, where we bring you real stories and insights from the world of emergency medical services. I'm your host, Tulani Thomas Sibanda, and today we have a very special guest joining us. But before we introduce our guest, I'm always with the usual suspects, Mr. Malusi Mtetwa and Elias Thomas. And today we are honored to be speaking to Ms. Charlotte Pillay, a paramedic whose journey has taken her from frontline operations to leadership, clinical program development, even academia, and we're excited to hear more about that. So stick around. But before we dive into Charlotte's incredible journey, I want to start on something light, Charlotte. And since it's Women's Month, how has the month been for you personally?
For me personally, it's been a great month. I've just come out of a fire and EMS and leadership conference with the MEC of healthcare, where we got to discuss the trajectory of women and their role in the EMS and in the fire services at large. So it's been a great month for me. It's been insightful. I was privileged to be among some powerful women in the industry, some industry trailblazers that were there. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this profession and to be part of such a great profession where it was a lot of women who walked this road before me in the EMS so that I could have a place and I could have a seat at the table today.
Sounds interesting. That's nice. And Charlotte, since you came from that conference, or you can even reflect on your life, is that if you can think about that one woman, whether in your personal life, in your career, or even from that conference that you attended, or in history, who really inspires you, who would that be and why?
I would say one woman that really stood out for me from the conference is Miss Bridget Zungu. She's the director of EMS for KZN Department of Health. And the reason why she stands out to me because she's someone who's been in the industry when it was predominantly male dominated. And I'm talking about years back. When I started in the EMS in 2008, there were only 1,600 paramedics that were registered with the HPCSA at that time. There were no females that I could look up to. There was no one that could inspire me. And her life and the things that she went through and the road that she walked down inspired me. They say she ran so people like me could walk in the EMS.
Thanks for sharing that. I am guilty, and there was one guest that we had on the Para podcast, and I made a comment or a question to say, why don't we have female directors in emergency medical services? And on that day, the episode is still coming. I hope Elias removes that part, deletes it. I was good that there is Miss Mama Bridget Zungu, but it's good to hear that she is inspirational.
Does. So she's a common name. Okay.
Yes, I guess she's doing good for herself and also inspiring people like you and many more. But nonetheless, thank you for sharing that, Charlotte. It's always powerful to hear who inspires the people, who inspire others. And I'm sure you also people, when they watch this, they're going to say, I'm inspired by Charlotte. Now, I'd love to take you to the back where it all began, your journey. And can you tell us if somebody is wondering who's Charlotte Pillay? Where's Charlotte from? Where's your upbringing? Can you tell us who's Charlotte?
So I'm from KZN. So you all know that I'm Indian and I'm from KZN. And in my Indian culture, going into the profession of being a paramedic and being an advanced life support paramedic was unheard of. So when you're an Indian, you either have to become a doctor, lawyer, accountant, and much to my parents' dismay, this is the career that I wanted to get into, and this is what I wanted to become. So this is who I am. This is the road that and the journey that I've chosen. When I was 16 years old, I watched back in Durban at that time, we didn't have much HIM services. We had the Discovery helicopter back then. So when I was 16 years old, I watched the Discovery helicopter land on the highway and the paramedics from there extricated a patient out of an MBA, and they flew the patient from there, and they stopped traffic. It was like the coolest thing that I've ever watched. And I knew from like that day, this is what I wanted to do. And that's what I did.
Sorry, Tulani, which township are you from in Durban?
KZN.
Where are you from, Charlotte?
Which township?
I'm from Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix. Yeah. All right.
Phoenix in the
just
house.
asking.
Where
just
are you
wanna
from,
off-
Tulani?
I just want to off ramp here a little bit. I'm from Joburg. Can you speak Zulu? Because most
I
Indians
can
in
speak like a little medical Zulu.
yeah.
Oh yes, Malusi knows KZN well because you worked in KZN.
Yeah. No, I'm actually from KZN, close to Richards Bay, the road area
Okay.
somewhere there. Yeah.
You know, Charlotte, I'm just wondering, you know, when you had to break this news to your parents, like, hey, guys, I'm actually going to study this other program I saw people doing in the street. Like, how did they take it? Like, was this like something like you are the black sheep of the family now? Why are you going off roads? What are you going
I don't
roads?
like that
How did they
very
react?
black sheep. It is. Oh,
Why?
I'd like
Must
to
it be a
think
white sheep?
I know that's called a black sheep.
I like to think that I'm generally the rebel of my family. Yeah, and they are just subjected to my decisions that I make. But I think it came as a shock to them because of my personality. If you've ever met me, I'm a very introverted person. I'm not loud. I don't fit the typical paramedic demeanor, the paramedic personality type. So I'm a very introverted person. So I think that came as a bit of a shock to them that this is what I wanted to do.
I know that I always said to people that I think representation is like a very important thing, you know, because I feel like if
Yeah.
people can see you there, then they can see themselves there. Has anyone ever sort of like walked up to you and said you are my hero, or like, you know, I wish to be like you just when I grow up? Have you ever had instances like that?
I've had that quite a few times. There's quite a few people that I mentor, especially now. There's a lot of female ECPs that are on quite a few programs up in UJ and in KZN as well. And quite a few of them have come up to me and said, you know what, I admire your career. And, you know, I see a lot of myself in you. And there's a lot of people that I mentor who have gone through the same things I went through in the EMS that I get to coach and I get to help them through their journey as well.
That's great. That's great.
And
Keep motivating people. Keep shining.
yeah. That's good, Charlotte. And now tell us your time at the university. How was your experience like? Because my experience was tough. We all shared our different experiences when we were in university. Someone got mad. They took his bread.
We know who that someone is. I don't know why we're saying someone got mad.
And
Say they mugged me and they took my bread.
Malusi used to eat fat cakes and then he would sleep in class. But how was your experience coming from high school to tertiary education? Were you prepared for tertiary education?
No, I don't think anyone is ever prepared from jumping from school and going into the EMS and going straight into university. Studying at university and studying emergency medicine is so different from all of the other courses. It's so different from being a chiropractor to a radiologist or getting into dentistry. Firstly, you're an EMC student. You're not like the other students. You wear this uniform to campus every day, while everyone else gets to wear these cool clothes. You know, you're jumping off buildings with these ropes. And, I had a very different university experience. I wasn't playing pool in the cafeteria every day. And during my holidays, we used to go work shifts in hospital. You don't even have much of a holiday or anything like that. So my university experience was very difficult. Also, I didn't have anyone in university that I could go to or say, you know what, this is the type of experience that I'm having, and it's so difficult, and like it's such a new experience, and I'm not coping, or I'm not dealing with this well. You had to do everything in silence, because back then, for me to be on this course was a privilege, because they tell you there's more than 3,000 people that applied to emergency medical care, and it's only 24 of you get on the course. So you already have this seat there, and there's no one that you can run to for help and stuff. So my experience was very different. I think I struggled a lot. With rescue. For me, I think the physical aspect was like really tough on me.
Yeah, the spreaders were heavy.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask, like, how did you pull through? Like, I remember we had like study groups, like we had, because our group was quite small. I mean, we were sort of 20, but we had sort of like mini groups within the group. And I remember after class, we need to study together just to try and comprehend sort of what was taught, and try and use everyone's strongest link to try and sort of like blend up and see how we can learn. Did you have anything similar? Did you have like a group of friends that you could just like mingle with and learn with? And
that was the other thing. I also didn't have many friends at university on the course as well. But one of the good things is that I excelled academically with the academic aspect of the course. The only thing that I think I fell behind or struggled with was the physical aspect and the rescue on the course.
could you swim at the time, by the way? Or did you have to learn how to swim then?
So I think they introduced that after I completed my studies. So I was lucky, but I can swim.
All right. No, thanks for sharing that. I think all of us we need to appreciate that we come from different backgrounds and we've had our different challenges in the university. But throughout all, we've made it. It's interesting what you've said, and I can sort of reflect on my past experiences where I think we were 30-something, 31, 32 when we were selected to the program. Obviously, the number of people that applied was huge. But if I had to think about the amount of people that had graduated from that 37, I can say 12. I must verify that, but it's not more than 15. And which shows that the course is difficult, but also it needs that dedication, needs perseverance. And I'm sure all of us sitting here, I can only speak for myself, we've all persevered to make sure that we are where we are and we are succeeding. But Charlotte, now you finished your degree at Durban University of Technology. And then what happened next?
So I worked at Netcare at
Which station?
So at first I was at Kingsway, and I think it was around the time that you were at Kingsway, because
Okay.
I think we did a bit of a handover there to each other. We were on opposite shifts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Look at him. He's smiling.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember. I remember a bit. I do remember Amy too.
Please.
Also, when I qualified, I was quite young and I didn't have my PDP back then. So I had one of the base managers that was kind enough to get a BLS to drive me around. And, he would also hold an umbrella for me if it got too hot on scene. I'm joking on that.
I wish.
Would it be nice though, wouldn't it?
Sorry?
It would be nice. I'm saying it would be nice, would it not?
Yeah. So I think I got driven around for a while.
After Kingsway?
So after Kingsway, I went to a small town just out of Durban called Richards Bay. So I spent most of my
That's where I'm
early
from.
career in Richards Bay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my hometown.
And just
And in Richards Bay, there was no ALS. I think both in the town next to Richards Bay that was called Impangeni, there was no ALS there as well. So I was the only advanced support paramedic that was there in the town.
How was that though? I mean, you being the only paramedic in the area, did they call you like even on your off days? Hey, can you just assist us with this, or I have this? I don't know. How was the experience?
So the hospitals in the town itself was similar to let's say like a level 2 trauma facility. So they had some specialists, but they didn't have neurosurgery, they didn't have a cath lab, they didn't have all of those specialist facilities. So if there was a patient that was involved in multi-system trauma, um, I'd be the one putting the patient on a vent and taking them to Durban Central to have them transported. So I sat with a lot of unstable patients for 2 hours. There was no HEM service even back then to fly patients from Richards Bay or Impangeni to Durban. I did get to go out to a lot of cool cases. Not far out of Richards Bay, there's another town called Sodwana where people usually go to dive. So I had quite a lot of diving emergencies as well. So I got really good exposure. I did a lot of neonatal transfers because they didn't have any specialist obstetric facilities there in Richards Bay. So transport a lot of unstable babies to Durban Central itself that I sat with. So it was a lot of difficult clinical cases.
Sounds like good experience. I was just gonna ask as well. And we speak on the channel a lot about mentorship and just sort of being prepared for the road. Did you have
Yeah.
any? And do you think it could have been better? And yeah, just around that area of how you experienced it.
I think it could have been better. And I think that's one of our pain points that we need to do better with the new graduates that come out of university. There's no handbook. You know, you get told the 10 codes. I didn't even know what 10 codes were, or how to speak on a radio and things like that. And, how to respond to cases. All of these things are foreign to you when you enter the work environment itself and things that you're not exposed to. Also difficult clinical cases that you sit with alone. For me, there weren't other paramedics at that time to guide me. So the guidance that I received was from other doctors or from other senior nurses that were with the patients or that was taking a handover from that would guide me.
look, your journey is quite interesting, and I think maybe that shaped you to the person that you are while you were working at the private ambulance service that you worked for. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced working as a female, as an operational paramedic as an operational paramedic at that time?
I think at that time, one of the things that was difficult for me is that I was so young. I was 23 years old, 22, 23. And it's very difficult because you're supposed to be this senior person and then you go and work with all of these people who are like in their 30s and their 40s and the EMS there. And now you have to go out there and command respect out of these people. And, it's so difficult. And I think that was difficult for me. Also, when I worked in Richards Bay, I was subjected to a lot of racism. Remember, I said I was the only advanced life support paramedic in this town, but I faced a lot of racism where at times I would go out to cases and they wouldn't want me to treat their patients. They would rather be treated by a fireman or a junior ranked paramedic like a BLS or something like that. They wouldn't allow me to treat them. And it was so heartbreaking. And I think those are the things that helped me develop a lot of resilience in my career. I had to learn that from a very young age starting out.
And do you,
What did you do in that case if someone doesn't want to be treated by you? Do you just like, okay, sign the indemnity form or like,
Yeah, so sometimes they wouldn't even come out of their houses there for me to treat them. They would rather be treated by other people. So I'm like, okay, you
yeah,
sign the waiver.
and Charlotte, look, this is very sad that we still have people that, well, at that time behaved like that they wouldn't want to be. Do you think that they looked at you, first of all, that you're an Indian, you're a female, and also there is that culture aspect to say, I wouldn't want to be treated by a female. What does she know? Do you think those were the aspects that played a role in terms of them saying, no, I don't want to be treated by you?
I think it was definitely the color. Being a person of color was the main issue. I don't think it came as being female as such. I think it's being a person of color, and they didn't want to be treated by a person of color.
I guess that was Richards Bay,
Yeah.
the other side, because you have the other side, which has a lot of Indian communities, your Flat and Flays and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that has multiple communities. It's a beautiful place, but it just has different people.
and I wonder what do you think we should do in these communities where I'm not sure if it still happens. I mean, on the podcast we had people that were working in Bloom, and they spoke about the racism in Bloom and how they would just straight up tell you that, hey, listen, not you. The other one, yes, but not you. What obviously this comes down as education. First of all, to say that listen, these are the people that are on the ambulance. They're gonna be coming out to your house. Please, first of all, respect them. They are professionals, irrespective of their color or their race, or whatever the case might be. What do you think we need to do in these communities in order to raise awareness? And just as well so that they understand how this affects these professionals that are coming out to do their job and now they are being subjected to racism and all these kinds of I don't know, discriminatory activities.
I'll tell you what I think. Oh, you can start there, Charlotte. You can start, Charlotte. Sorry.
I would, I was doing the math, and it's like almost 17 years ago that I was working on the road, and these were the things that was happening. And I think it's evolved a lot since then. People are more aware of the capabilities of paramedics and what they can do. And, they can come out and give you pain relief and make you feel better and ease your breathing and things like that, and check your heart and stuff and your heart rhythm. I think that whole perception of paramedics has changed since then.
Yeah.
Um,
What I was going to say was I was in Bloemfontein. I think it was Boosty that spoke about Bloemfontein and her experience. I was in Bloemfontein in
Yeah.
22, in 21, 22, just after COVID. I worked there for 5 months. And I was surprised when I saw the pamphlet for the organization. They had my pictures on because I used to work there too.
Legend.
I was
Legend.
surprised. Anyway, but what I noticed is that Bloemfontein has racism straight, and also adding to that, there's also classism. So it doesn't matter whether you're white. Sometimes there is classism between the white people that you are a poor white person, therefore won't treat you the same as we'll treat the other one. Like I saw it when I was bringing patients in different hospitals. You'll experience it in a private hospital between the nurses as they are receiving the patients. You'll see that the treatment is just not the same. And it's like they don't care really. And that's just it. It's just the culture there. I don't know what we can do. For me, really, look, we can't change people. We can't try and force people to be what they're not. But don't take it to heart when it happens to you. Just take it as it is. If that's what you want, don't be treated by darker skin. Sorry, you mean you don't want the best that there is.
I, I think that although maybe we hope that there's no such committees that still exist, but I think that ongoing education is important. That ongoing awareness that needs to still needs to be there, so that people can be aware that we are there to save them. We're not going to be discriminating. I mean, my research what my studies that I'm trying to do is that when you see someone as a patient, you should treat them with respect, regardless of how they present themselves, or how they look, how they speak, whether they are poor or whether they're rich. But also, I never thought it from a patient perspective on how they see a practitioner. But I think that awareness, that education is important for us to have. And this is one of the platforms that we aim to have, to say, we are not there to judge you. We are not there to treat you unfairly, but we are there to give you the best treatment that we can, that you deserve. Anything else shouldn't matter. We abide by the ethical rules when we treat you. But yeah, in any case, Charlotte, so you finished you left road ops, and I believe you went to the emergency operations center. Is that correct? Or there
I
was something
did
else that you did?
that.
Yeah.
So I worked. So at Netcare, we have specialized vehicles within the Gauteng area, which is called critical care retrieval vehicles. So I
Yeah.
worked critical care retrieval for about a year before going on into the emergency operations center.
Okay. And look, if I had to choose, Charlotte, the EOC, I would definitely know. But for someone, many of us picture paramedics on the road, but there are people that are working in the emergency operations center, which is the nerve of every emergency services. For someone who hasn't been inside any operations center, can you please maybe paint a picture on what it's like on a busy day in the EOC?
A busy day in the EOC has more than 1,600 calls that come in a 6 to 6 window period. So in a 12-hour window period, you have just over 1,600 calls that come in nationally into a national call center. There's insured and uninsured patients, and each one of these 1,600 calls are people's emergencies, their life events. So every call that you take is someone could be having the worst day of their lives, and you could be taking that call. And it's one of the reasons why I moved into the operations center. It's because I wanted to help people on a larger scale. So when I worked as an operational paramedic, and you guys will agree with me that at most you probably treat 5 patients in a 12-hour shift at most. Well, you might get called to about 10 cases, but the patients that you do transport and treat could be between 3 to 5. But here in the operations center, I got to impact more than 1,600 emergencies and lives. I got to have a hand in those emergencies, and it's one of the reasons that I moved into the emergency center. And every day in there is a high impact environment. Um, it's a lot of critical cases that come through. You can have anything from a lady who could be having a baby on the sidewalk that you would be have to giving pre-arrival information to and coaching her through the process, to someone who could be calling you for abdominal pain and a stub toe. Each of these emergencies are life events, and they need to be treated with care. So um, it's a very diverse environment. It's a very dynamic environment. I don't think it's for everyone. Like you said, you don't think that you would be cut out for the emergency center.
No, I look, it's a nice environment because of, as you said, that it exposes you to the broader aspect nationally. You get to understand
Yep.
what happens in terms of the dispatch system. Why do they send ALS? Why didn't they send ALS? What resources are needed at that stage? And it's all guided by the information that the call taker takes, the
Yep.
type of emergency. And these are the things that people don't know, is that when a call comes through, goes to the call taker, and then from there it goes to various places where it gets dispatched. And Charlotte, when you work in the EOC, and this is something that is not spoken about, is there any in-house training, or people that work in the control center, do they have their own training that they get outside and then they come and get work in the EOC, or they get an inbound? training that equips them to function in that environment?
So, just before I left Netcare, that was one of the last positions that I held, was education and training at the emergency operations center. So um, I was responsible for training of all of the call takers that came into the operations center. I also curated and I led an internship program. So there were a lot of unemployed BLS paramedics that are registered with the HPCSA, but they're not working and they're not doing anything medical. Some of them are cleaners, some of them are working in retail. So I led an internship program where I gave them the skills and I taught them how to take calls, how to give pre-arrival information, how to do telephonic CPR, how to speak on the phone and deal with angry customers and irate patients and people were going to scream at you. So that was one of the things that I led. And I also led a lot of education and training. So upskilling them on all of the current events, from anything from clinical to customer services. So that was my last position that I led in the ESC. There's a lot of training that goes into call takers. They're not just people just talk on the phone and like your usual telemarketers. It involves a lot of skill.
Mhm. And just to throw a spanner there, is that obviously having worked for the private ambulance services, people used to say to us, before someone can work at the EOC, they must have that road ops experience. What are your opinion on that?
I think that it's very important to have operational experience before you come to work in the EOC. It's the thing that differentiates you from a telemarketer or calling someone or speaking on the phone in an unusual call center. There are many call centers across South Africa. You get your GPG call center, the fire department call center, SAPS has a call center, but I don't think anyone is cut out for being in a medical call center where you have someone who calls you frantic. Their husband or wife is laying on the floor, unconscious, no breathing, no pulse, and you would have to guide them through that emergency. That takes a lot of grit,
Hmm.
and that takes a lot of skill.
Look, and there was one incident. I don't remember whether it was at ER24 or at Netcare, but there was one flight, not the flight coordinator, but it was a dispatcher. They actually had a case whereby someone had went into cardiac arrest. And during that time, that person was trained to handle that patient, to guide those family members. Okay, if he's not breathing, put him on the floor. That whole process starts CPR. And by the time when we got there, the patient was we continued resuscitation. I think that that's where what's this, technology plays a role in terms of having such advances in emergency medical care, and that road extra experience is actually important for us to have that. And for someone who's been in those cases where they have to give advice on the phone, is there any counseling that you guys provided? Because I can imagine for us, we go to those cases, but for someone who's sitting, their imagination is going wild, someone into cardiac arrest, what do we do in this instance?
It's such a good point that you raised, counseling for people who talk on the phone to those who have gone through emergencies. I do know at the Netcare 911 call center, they have a Monday to Friday counselor that's there in-house at the head office that's able to take appointments to counsel people. Also, a lot of the staff are trained to be care ambassadors to compassionately deal with some of the call takers when they've had a bad day or they have a difficult call, just to talk them down through it. They also have a bit of a pause and a breather room that they can go in and take a deep breath. They could have had a pediatric CPR call that they could have attended to. So there's a lot of facilities for call takers today.
To be honest, just before you proceed,
Yep.
I was just gonna ask, so what is the reception from the rest of the staff? I mean, during your time there, of course, did they actually seek for this assistance, or like, for instance, I remember like some at times when someone sends like like I don't know, like a counselor or anyone to speak to you and just to say, hey, they are available. Sometimes people look at you like, oh, what, you're going there, oh, okay, you cannot handle the job. You get so. I'm just wondering, have you seen something like that? Do you feel people are sort of like keen to seek for this, for the assistance that is provided, or do you think they are considered to be weak if they are going there and people might look at them funny?
I think no one in the EMS sees themselves as weak if they reach out for assistance. Being being someone that deals with the nature of these cases is a special how you have to have a specialized skill to deal with it, and with that specialized skill comes a lot of stress associated with that. You also absorb a lot of other people's emotions talking to them. They're frantic, they're crying, they're irate. It's a lot to deal with mentally. It's heavy. So I don't think now many call takers are reluctant to reach out. I think they're more willing now than ever to reach out, especially after the pandemic as well. It was very difficult for a lot of emergency call centers and a lot of us in the EMS during COVID and post-COVID as well.
Look, I think we need to appreciate the people that work in the call centers everywhere worldwide, because we just go to those cases, although we also have our own stresses, but they also have different stressors that they are subjected to.
Mm.
And the work that they put in might seem like it's easy, but in actual fact, it is a demanding environment. I know in some call centers, when a call comes through, you have a specific timeline, like it has to be answered and then it has to be shifted. So all of that it's a high impact stress that people need to function. And I'm glad that there's those facilities whereby people can go and confide or talk to someone if they're not okay. And now, being in a leadership position in the EOC, having to run and also implement certain trainings which were impactful for the organization, how did you balance your clinical decision making with operational oversight in a large, complex EMS system?
I think for me, it was a delicate matter, balancing clinical decision making and balancing operational decisions. I think for me, I leaned a lot, a lot on my staff at the time. When I was in the emergency operations center, they've been working there for many years. A lot of the call takers, a lot of the dispatchers have been there for 10 to 15 years. A lot of them came with a lot of knowledge that I didn't have. And I think it's one of the distinguishing things as a leader to be the kind of leader that you allow your staff to speak out to you, and um, you allow them to feel empowered so they are able to raise concerns. So if you are making a decision, they are able to give you advice. I think that was one of the points for me, balancing clinical decision making and ops. And I think at most, I always had the patient at heart. I think that was for me the most important thing when making a decision. I always have the patient in mind. And I think that that leads your decisions, you will always make the correct decision. And it's very easy to have that translate into strategy and your operational decisions.
Sorry, can I add something? It's a bit irrelevant. I can hear, I can remember voices when I used to work for Netcare, people that I used to talk with on the radio. I can clearly remember. I think there was a guy called Andrew. Never met him.
Andrew Musian, not Andrew Musian, yeah. I know him.
I don't know his last name, but I remember him. And there's another one, but I can't remember him. they used to work together in the same shift. But it also talks to you put a person, you put a face to the person's name. You can think of them, can picture them and who they are, and you sort of build a relationship with a person that you've never seen. You know, you're going to work, you're going to talk to them, and if you have a fight with them, you know that your day is gonna be a mess. Oh, but it was fun. It was fun.
You're
I
gonna
know
get
that one.
dispatched to 10 abdo pain that day.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
you stop abdo
Well,
pain.
you see, you'll be driving from Amanzimtoti to Pinetown for an abdo
Hey,
pain.
guys, you know, you've brought something. Can I share my story? Is that
With Andrew.
no,
No, he's triggered.
Andrew,
He's triggered.
Andrew was my friend. I hope he doesn't kill me for forgetting his surname. But Andrew, we good. We're good.
I'd
The
love to
thing
meet him.
is,
Tell him.
I'll text him. So look, I was young at Netcare. I'm not gonna lie. I was young. I declared that I was young. That was between 2014 and 2016. Those years. Okay. So we had a friend. I can't mention names now. We had a friend that worked in the EOC, and then one of my friend was working in road ops. Right. So me and my other friend who was working road ops went partying. Look, I admit it's irresponsible behavior. I've never done it. We went partying. We left the one that was working in the EOC. We came back, I think, around about 3 in the morning. And
56.
I went to bed. So my friend worked closer to the base. People would know him. He was staying closer to the base. I had to drive from, I think, 25 kilometers to where I worked. So the other friend, not mentioning names, heard that we went partying. She kept us busy that night. It was the worst day.
Is it because you didn't invite her, or is it because?
Look, Elias, some things are, you know, when they say that there are signs, there were signs
Yeah.
that she was not, she was not happy.
I was
But
jealous.
I learned that I'll never do it again, ever again. But it was good experience. It was, but I don't condone it to anyone that you go partying and then go to work again. But luckily, I was not drinking. But yes, I was young and I was out of. I did do those things, unbelievable, and
But I think that's also another thing that highlights the relationship between paramedics and their dispatchers and stuff. And, if you're rude to them, you're going to get dispatched to crappy cases then.
But that's not fair.
Yeah.
That's too much power for people that sit in the office. I don't like that.
Well, better behave.
No, no. And you can't do anything. You have to go out to the job, That's it.
Charlotte, so you finished at the EOC and you moved to where are you now and what are you currently doing?
So when I left the EOC and Netcare 911, I moved to Cape Town. At that time, I just completed my MBA and
Okay.
I moved to Cape Town.
Sorry.
Congrats. Yay.
Yeah. Thank you. I moved to Cape Town into an executive role at an organization that did work for the World Food Program, the United Nations, and UNICEF. I worked there for about a year and I sort of didn't like the environment that I was in at the time. And then from there, I moved into the current role that I'm in, which is I manage a division of a medical aid scheme that deals with female healthcare and toddler care.
Oh, that's very different.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Look, you've done emergency medical care and your trajectory, you've worked on helicopters. Why move in the direction of MBA?
So when I was working operationally, I wanted to make a huge difference in the EMS. And I knew that I couldn't do it being an operational paramedic. I knew that for people to listen to me, I had to sit in tables and at boardrooms where strategy was being discussed, policy was being discussed, where decision making was happening. And I couldn't just enter those rooms just like that, being an operational paramedic. I did my MBA and I did a postgrad in business management as well, just to get me through the door, just so I could be better at writing policies, making decisions as well in the EMS, and influencing a lot of the things that I wanted to influence at that time.
And if you had to go back to maybe where you worked, do you think that educational experience now will better equip you to function in those roles, since you've done your postgraduates and studies and your MBA?
Yes, definitely. I think the MBA assisted me a lot with my decision making and the way I handle things. The way I do things is more methodical. It's more streamlined. I'm able to innovate more. I have more of an innovative mind when I look at things. So the MBA has impacted my career in a lot of ways.
Charlotte, you spoke about being in leadership in management and you doing your MBA. What I do want to ask you though is that when you were in those key positions that you were in, were you being mentored to be in those positions? Did somebody train you to function in those spaces, or you had to learn on the job?
I received a lot of mentorship, and for that, I'm very grateful for Netcare for giving me a head start in my career with a lot of mentorship. I don't think anyone ever gets to where they are in their career or without a mentor. Mentors play such an important role in your career, and that I was very grateful for. I received a lot of coaching. Um, a lot of my directors coached me onto how to write policy, coached me through a lot of my decisions when it came to the operations center, when it came to HIMSS, when it came to difficult, critical patients. I received a lot of mentorship.
Oh.
All right. And just to move more into your education and academic role, is that you are an adjunct facilitator at Regent Business School. Have you always seen yourself as a lecturer or as a teacher?
I always gravitated towards teaching because I really liked teaching. I felt like I was someone that I can really simplify things and make you understand it. So I gravitated a lot towards teaching in the operations center. Um, but I didn't see myself taking on this role at Regent, but I really enjoy it because when I was approached by Regent, they looked for lecturers and facilitators that had real world clinical knowledge when it came to decision and being exposed to a lot of different healthcare systems in private healthcare and in public healthcare. So those are the things that I bring to my current classroom environment. I lecture human resource management and organizational behavior on the Masters in Business Administration for healthcare providers. So my main students are healthcare professionals who are doing an MBA.
And how? Because it sounds like your life is busy. Don't ask us how we find time, but how do you balance bringing academic work, your normal life, and as well as working your normal job? How do you balance all of that in the real world?
How do I balance all of it? I think I live by a calendar. They say you know that you're getting old when you live your life by your calendar. So I map out my time and I spend my time really wisely. I'm able to give the best at my job as give the best to my students with mapping out my time. So, and I think that's one of
We know where you are.
Guys,
There's a big calendar behind me.
Honestly, just pointing at his calendar behind him.
There's a
Yeah.
big
He's like,
calendar
"How are
behind me.
you?"
no, we always laugh at Malusi and his big calendar, but I think it speaks a lot about the type of person that you are. You might correct me if I'm wrong, but it says that you're organized, you're professional, and you know what you want to do. And as a result, you're able to function the way you're functioning. Even have time for Pilates, and hopefully you can convince Malusi to do Pilates.
Also,
I'm just wondering,
also,
I'm
I
just
love
wondering,
what I
do you
do.
miss
So teaching doesn't feel like a lot of work for me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's
Pretty good.
that is good. And in your experience, what are the key leadership skills today healthcare professionals need to thrive?
The key leadership
Skills,
skills.
yes, because you said you're teaching healthcare professionals in that MBA. One of the subjects that you're teaching is human resource. And what I want to ask is that if somebody wants to be a leader, I mean, obviously they can ask you from the experience, but what are those leadership skills that you think they need for them to be successful in leadership, in key leadership positions?
I think for me, some of the things that stand out for a leader, especially a healthcare leader, is number one, empathy will always be at the core of it. As a healthcare leader, being empathetic, being an empathetic and compassionate leader, you will always see that in your decisions, and it comes through in your decision making. A lot of the times, when you lead people, people will always remember how you made them feel, and when it comes to being a leader. And I think being a leader in the healthcare industry is really important for you to be adaptable. I think that's one of the second things I would say that's most important. Being an adaptable person, that's an important skill. We've seen through different pandemics and different things that change in the healthcare system. The things that have been rolled out now with NHR, you need to be adaptable. You need to have the skill of leading people through uncertain times. COVID was a difficult period for healthcare leaders as well. We were leading people in very uncertain times. I would think adaptability would be second to empathy. And for me, I always preach this: being authentic as a leader. Um, that's an important leadership skill to have, being authentic. Don't try to mimic someone else. Be authentic in the skills that you have, develop your own skills. I mentioned that I'm very much an introvert. I'm not a loud person, but I connect very well with people, and I'm able to build very deep connections with people. So be your authentic self. So empathy, adaptability, and be your authentic self.
I can imagine being called by you, Charlotte, and say, "Now listen, Madasi, might have to let you go." Like the way that it will go.
You probably think you say, yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think so too. And
And,
then you
and
think that, oh my
you
God.
might even thank me for like speaking to you like
Yeah,
this.
you're
And say
saving
like
me,
thank you at the
Anna.
end of the day.
I think I had a question. Do you miss the road by any chance, or do you sometimes wish you were doing one or two shifts at least?
I do miss the road. I do miss treating patients. I think everyone that's in corporate healthcare still misses treating patients. Um, Being in the corporate world is very different from just treating patients. Um, I love treating patients. I love people, so I do miss it a lot.
Even the night shifts as well.
Uh, I do not miss night shifts. When I first got to the EUC, I had to work night shifts in there. Oh, it was such a dumpster fire for me. I hated working night shifts.
He's not working night shift. That's why he's making fun of us, normal people, normal paramedics.
Yeah.
And Charlotte, so look, for a female, regardless of their race, young, aspiring, or people that are already in the EMS profession, what advice would you give to paramedics or healthcare professionals who want to move beyond operational role into leadership, management, or academia?
We just spoke about being authentic. I would say if you want to get into academia or in management or leadership, don't go into it because you think management is easier or you're burning out from your current operational job and you want to move into academia because you think it's easier or it's a much lighter workload. It's not. So I would say go with what you're passionate about and what aligns itself to what you're passionate about. I think that would be one of the things that I advise people to do. And secondly, I would say find your mentors, find people who are there and around you to encourage you, to help you walk this road with you. People would give you honest advice, not just flatter you and tell you, oh, you're the greatest person ever. You're going to be the best manager. No, people who would be able to call you out, to be able to develop the skills inside of you, be able to mentor you and give you the right advice. Also try to gravitate to people that you want as mentors whose career that you are inspired by. So I think that was one of the things that stood out to me when I looked for mentors. I looked for people who I was inspired by what they did in the EMS or what they did in healthcare, and I was inspired by their careers or the positions that they held, and I reached out to them as mentors. And then lastly, I would say know your why. I had an overarching why from the time that I was 17 years old that I wanted to make a difference in healthcare, and that why has never left me. It's the thing that got me through an MBA. It's the thing that got me through racism, through difficult days, to days that made me question why I'm even in the EMS. That was my why, that I wanted to make a difference, that there weren't many females in this industry. There weren't many females who were persons of color in the industry. The time that I flew on HIMS, I never saw a person of color flying on HIMS who was a female. So I knew that I wanted to be someone that people would be able to reach out to me.
I was gonna say that I think it's good, and as I said before, I think representation is a very important thing, and I can't stress that enough. If people can't see people that look like them, they will never feel like they belong. And I think the other thing that I also find very important is mentorship. And I think even though, and for people that are out there that are mentors, I think you have to really be considerate when you are mentoring these people to make sure that you do not break them down and that you actually guide them and that you're honest with them, but also at the same time that you also think of them as human beings. The other thing that I was also going to say is that when we started this podcast, it's sort of just like a conversation, but now I'm finding that it's becoming a place where people can reach out to for advice. A few days ago, someone reached out because they had an interview and it was they were gonna work on a cruise ship, and they just reached out to say, "Hey, listen, I'm having this interview. How can I best prepare myself?" And then we gave them tips, and they were successful at it, which I think is creating that community. I know we are a very small community, but it being small, I think we should connect. And now having you that is in a different space, absolutely different. I've not met anyone that has taken that route before. I hope you can sort of like come into that community and really assist those people that are moving in that direction. Because there's quite a few people that don't want to work the road and they want to do something absolutely different. And I think you being on the podcast is really great. And I think it's an opportunity for them to learn that there are different paths and different branches that you can climb. So thank you, Charlotte.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think
Yes.
So I think, Charlotte, thank you for coming to this podcast. And one of the few episodes that we've done was on career progression, where we spoke about different ways, different places where paramedics can progress their careers. But we never, I never thought about that we'll have someone who's done an MBA, who's done something completely different that is outside EMS. But when we had a conversation with you today, we also got to realize that there is some element of incorporating healthcare into MBA. You're still going to have an impact within the healthcare sector, but where in a more office environment where you play a role in decision making, in making sure policies are written, policies that will be there for advancement of the EMS service. And I hope wherever you go, keep shining. And thank you for gracing us with your presence. Any last words from Malusi before we give to Charlotte?
Yeah, I think it will be to highlight exactly what the career that you've taken. It's very different. It's very unique, and also looks like a big leap of faith. If you think about it, you moved from operations and then you went to the control center, and then after that you moved completely out of what you were trained as your primary skill.
Yeah.
And executive role, and now you're doing something that is completely out, but is still in healthcare, it's healthcare management. So you've progressed very, very well in a different way, and it's not going flat. It's just going straight up. Yeah, and it's like you know exactly what you're doing and where you're going. So we'll say keep shining, and all the best. Should I want to do an MBA, in which I doubt, I'll come to you.
We can't take Malusi anyway.
Everybody wants to do an MBA these days.
Yeah. But thanks for coming. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. I was very privileged when you reached out to me to be on the podcast today. Thank you. And thank you all for creating a platform for paramedics, for women, for women of color as well.
Thank you. And everyone, thanks. Cheers.